So the story of the construction of this new facility really dates back, in my experience at least, to about 2013. When I joined the board in 2013, the business case and the redevelopment thoughts for the new facility were just crystallizing at that point. We knew at that point that our licenses expired in 2025 and that we had to do something to bring the facility up to new standards. And we also knew at that point that the community was seriously underbedded.
This is a community effort. It's quite a sizable challenge to go out and redevelop a nursing home, but to also redevelop one with additional capacity at a time when the government had not agreed to add any additional long-term care beds. If you don't have that number of beds for people over the age 75, your wait list then continues to grow. And you compare that to, say, other communities around, such as Almont or Renfrew, and they had more beds for the same number of people over the age of 75. What happens then? People leave your community, and then you start to say, what happened to this idea of having local access as close to home as possible? So that message of saying that we are underbedded and we need to have additional capacity here didn't just come from me, it had to come from leaders and the community at large.
This is all part of the town of Arnprior's age-friendly community action plan. And one of our mandates was to help build new long-term care beds for the growth, and that was our mandate. We wanted some place where our seniors felt safe and secure. We wanted a place where they could be close to their families and friends, and that was the main thing starting out right from the very beginning. And we also wanted to engage the community. We wanted to ignite this whole thing as a community building initiative, if you will.
There were intense advocacy efforts that had been undertaken both by the board and the community in order to make these licenses happen. At this point in the political structure, licenses were not being granted to anyone else unless they were already in existence. We were looking for 36 new licenses, and the only solution at that point was to either find them from somebody who had spare beds, and there weren't very many of them around, or to persuade the government to change their policy and grant us new licenses. So both of those alternatives were a bit groundbreaking.
So we needed to be very transparent to the community about the challenge that this was going to be and look for their support. And one of the things that we came up with then was to say, we're going to do a postcard campaign.
So the idea was to create a postcard that indicated someone's support. And the postcards were printed up locally and were distributed everywhere. Every store had a stack of postcards, and anybody who came into an establishment was asked to consider signing one of these postcards.
And we got over 6,000 of them, and we delivered them then to John Yakubuski, the MPP. And and I remember him, he said, well, Eric, I'm gonna take these and I'm gonna bring them to the Minister of Health and saying, here's the impact of the full community.
We had the Premier of Ontario visit us for a great big breakfast here in town. No one even knew that the Premier was coming at the time. So we had the room filled in our old grove, and in walks the Premier of Ontario, just to announce that we had been successful in our application for an increase in the long-term care bed licenses that we've strived so hard to get.
I was here when the then Premier of Ontario announced millions of dollars to get the project going, but there still needed to be money from the area. But then the volunteers. There's been many volunteers and committees and so forth to help this project happen.
I still remember baking sales that the residents were doing to raise funds. There was knitting competitions to make, again, more money for their new grove. So the residents themselves were looking forward to going.
We all came together in support of this project financially, of course, with large sums of money to help get it done, but it was something that we needed to spend money on to have this for our residents.
It just simply says that's who we are, that's who we've always been, and that's who we'll be. The people of Arnprior stand up and they're accounted for every time there's a need.
The community response has been amazing. They took hold of it and embraced it right from day one. It was a 5-year goal, and we've reached the goal prior to the residents moving in. That's just an amazing testament for the community and how they embraced the project.
We have seen our community leaders step up to the plate and ensure that this came to fruition. The community will now realize and appreciate that their loved ones coming into the Grove are getting the best possible care and have the best quality of life.
The care at the Grove is tops. It meets the need, and there's pleasant men and women staff on which pay attention to what they're doing and adjust you in whichever way is most comfortable for you.
The design of the new Grove, where you have neighborhoods or resident home areas, that is absolutely critical to promoting a person-centered approach.
This being a new home, everything between the color choices to the room styles to the new equipment, it makes it easier for our residents to enjoy and be social and have their own space. And it also makes it easier for staff to spend the time and the quality that's required and necessary on our part to take care of them in the way that we want to take care of them. We've been given this, and it's a gift. I see it as a gift to have our relatives, our residents, or anyone that may be coming into the home, they're staying in our community. And it's so nice to see them stay in the community that they were raised in and that they don't have to go elsewhere.
You know, staying close to home is a cognitive factor for many people. I can go back many, many years ago when my grandmother, who was an original resident in this nursing home, actually had to move to Almont because the Grove didn't exist at that point in time. She declined while she was in Almont. When she got back to the community that she grew up in, knew people in, her behaviors became better, right? So plus it's the stress on the loved one. So driving up to Pembroke for 45 minutes when you're 80 years old, that maybe isn't something that you can do on a daily basis. You maybe do it once a week, once a month, versus if it's in your own community, you're going to find a way to be there with your loved one.
As you age, your ability to travel, the economics of traveling, all of those things play into it. So if you have an hour's drive to go visit a relative or see somebody, depending on your own health issues and financial situations, it can be a real restriction, if not a complete restraint.
The ability of our residents to move into an assisted living building that is right here in our own community is paramount to their well-being.
The future growth of the Grove, we have been awarded an additional 32 beds by the ministry, so we are looking at growth already before too long. And I think there's a lot of excitement around that because, we can build on, I think the word we've tossed around a lot is seniors village. So what does that look like? How can we incorporate those 32 beds as we add them on to our 96? Are we going to look at maybe more specialized care? Are we going to look at a dementia unit that specializes in that area? And what are the other things we can offer to our community as a whole?
This place has been beautiful. And now the change is going to be just unbelievable. And we're all very excited about it. And I'm proud to be a member of the Grove as a resident.